What's up, everybody? This is Sam with Sam Shady Sports coming at you once again. And this time we're talking quarterbacks. There's been a lot of news with the quarterback movement in the NFL as of late, including the retirement and subsequent unretirement yesterday of Tom Brady. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, he's pulling a Brett Favre. That was the first thing that came to mind when I heard he was coming out of retirement. But at the same time, I don't blame him. I didn't think he was done when he named his retirement. Honestly, I think it was a decision he was forced into by the media because they leaked the story prior to him being ready to announce it. Had that never happened, I don't think we ever actually get an announcement of a retirement. I think they kind of almost forced him into the situation he found himself. It's unfortunate that it happened the way it did, but as a football fan, I'm happy to see him back. I know that's weird to say, being that you see a bunch of Eagles gear behind me, but Tom Brady's good for football, man. Like, at the end of the day, there are quarterbacks that have literally grown up watching his game and end up in the NFL because of it. Because they see how he handles the game. They see how he approaches his training, his diet, everything. He approaches the game as serious as it could possibly be approached. It's his life. It's not just a game to him. It's not just a job. It's more than a career to him. It's literally his passion. And as far as I'm concerned, if it's me and I'm Tom Brady and I'm in the physical shape that he's in and I'm coming off of two of the best years of my career statistically, I keep playing. Why do I stop? Hell no, man. I go out and I continue to play with the Bucs until they kick me out the door. Because at the end of the day, he hasn't had a whole lot of terrible injuries. He hasn't had to fight back through rehab year after year after year after year. And don't get me wrong, he's had some injuries. He did blow out his knee at one point. He missed a full season, and I'm sure that accounts in his thinking. But at the same time, in the last few years, he's been remarkably healthy. More healthy than most other quarterbacks can even say in the NFL. So for him to hang it up right now didn't quite make sense. I, for one, will be kind of interested to see if Ali Marpet backs off his retirement talk, but I don't think it honestly happens. I think he will ultimately hang it up. I think he is ironically going to call it a career, despite the fact that Brady returned, even though I think it was somewhat motivated by the fact that Brady retired in the first place that Marpet hung it up. But moving on to the next quarterback move, and it was something that I spoke about on my Twitter Spaces. If you guys didn't catch it, go ahead and check that out at Sam Shady Sports on Twitter. I often go live on Spaces. It's a little bit easier to do at times, and I can get you news a little bit quicker that way. So if you want to follow me on there, occasionally I drop a space. You kind of just gotta watch out for it. I don't really have a schedule to it. It's more or less when news comes out. But like I said, moving on to the next quarterback, that would be Russell Wilson. If you haven't heard, Denver Broncos sold the farm to get Russell Wilson. And when I said sell the farm, they sold the farm. They gave up 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, a 5th-round pick, defensive tackle Shelby Harris, quarterback Drew Lock, and tight end Noah Fant. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that any of those 3 players were Pro Bowl level players or premier talent by any stretch. I mean, we're talking about a backup level quarterback and a serviceable starter at defensive tackle and a decent tight end. In my personal opinion, a guy who was held back by the offense that he was forced to play in the past couple of years in Noah Fant. I think Fant's going to be a great addition for Seattle, but at the same time, like I said, none of these players are exactly sure things for Seattle. They're definitely guys that it could be boom or bust, all 3 of them. Drew Lock may never actually play a snap for Seattle, and actually that might be best case scenario for them, as we as Bronco fans have seen. On the flip side of that, all they got back was Russell Wilson and a 4th-round pick, which, don't get me wrong, the 4th-round pick basically negates the fact that they gave up a 5th, and you could really even say it kind of negates the fact that they gave up Drew Lock, if you look at it like that. But regardless, this is a lot to give up for any quarterback, and I know that we heard rumors that teams were offering 3 and 4 and 5 first-round picks to get Russell Wilson, but ultimately we all know that Seattle wasn't going to give him up to an NFC team if they could avoid it. And so when they got an offer like they did from Denver, it just made too much sense to ship him to the AFC, where they're not going to play him once every 4 years. It's ironic that Russell Wilson defeated Von Miller and the Broncos in the Super Bowl once upon a time, and now he will be playing for the Broncos, trying to win another Super Bowl, possibly with Von Miller. Yeah, that's right. If you didn't catch the news, Von Miller has been alluding to it very heavily on his Twitter, Instagram, and wherever else he can post that he wants to return to Denver. Ironically, only after the Russell Wilson trade happened, but we're not going to call him out for that, because, really, who wanted to play with another Teddy Bridgewater season? And the man just won another Super Bowl ring, so of course he wants to continue the success he just saw. He's coming off a huge playoff run in which he basically put up statistics that mirrored his 2015 run. That's 7 years ago. For him to be able to play that well at this age is unheard of, and he definitely earned himself a good payday, so it remains to be seen if Denver can actually afford him. But if they can, that would be a reunion that every fan in Denver would love to see. Von Miller has never been the type of guy that any fan wanted to see leave Denver. He's always been a fan favorite, and I think that will continue if he comes back. I, for one, rooted for him to win a Super Bowl with the Rams, strictly because of the type of guy he is. He's always been a very fan-centered player, and somebody who's always been the best kind of guy from the outside looking in. Moving on to the next name on the list, it was Aaron Rodgers. Ironically, depending on who you ask, Aaron Rodgers signing his extension with Green Bay had nothing to do with Denver deciding to trade for Russell Wilson, and that they actually had their offer on the table to Seattle multiple weeks ago. I believe that is true, with a caveat. I think that they did make a full court press to try and get Aaron Rodgers. I fully think that they attempted to tamper prior to the window actually opening, which is neither here nor there. I think that they tried to do everything they could to convince Aaron Rodgers not to sign an extension with Green Bay and to come to Denver, but they failed. And when they failed, and that extension was signed, and they got the indication that the deal was not going to happen, they turned to Plan B. And a Plan B was a trade offer that they had already placed on the table for Seattle to think about for multiple weeks. And Seattle wanted that time, given the fact that Washington was offering a very lucrative deal as well. They needed the time to think about the fact that Washington's offering multiple first-round picks and more draft capital ultimately than Denver was. But at the end of the day, like I said, the deciding factor here was sending Russell Wilson to the AFC and not the NFC. So it ended up working out in Denver's favor. They didn't have to turn to Plan C, which I am scared to see what it could have been. It could have been Carson Wentz. It could have been Kirk Cousins. It could have been Teddy Bridgewater again, which, despite what most fans think, actually had a career year in 2021. It's true. Go look up his statistics. Prior to 2021, he had never topped, 14 touchdowns. He threw 18 last year. So just put that in perspective. In Denver, it's Super Bowls or bust. So we all knew that they were going to go all in on a quarterback. And for me, I'm glad they got somebody like Russell Wilson rather than going to get Carson Wentz or Kirk Cousins, which were probably the next couple guys in line, who probably still would have cost a significant amount, although we ultimately saw Washington acquire Carson Wentz for 2 third-round picks, with one of them being a conditional second in 2023. Which, like I said, that would be the next name on the quarterback carousel that fell. The next domino to fall after the first 3 big names came off the board. So, yes, Carson Wentz goes to his former division rival in Washington, the Commanders, and he's going to be the new starting quarterback, taking over for Taylor Heinicke. Now, Heinicke, in my mind, was not all that much worse than Carson Wentz in 2021. However, I think it's a tough sell to Washington fans with a new brand and a new name that they were going to go into the 22 season with Heinicke at the starting position once again. I ultimately thought they were going to spend a draft pick on a quarterback. I just didn't think it was going to be via trade. Ultimately, it was, and now they will move into 2022 and beyond with Carson Wentz as their starter, facing my Philadelphia Eagles twice a year. I'm looking forward to more Eagles catching passes from Carson Wentz because it's inevitable. I don't think he's ever going to recover. I don't think any franchise that gives him a chance is going to get the 2017 version of Wentz. I just don't think it's going to happen. He's simply too far gone, and he no longer has the mentality of a franchise quarterback. And it pains me to say, I've literally got Wentz gear in my closet upstairs that I almost don't even want to wear because of what's happened with him and getting Doug Peterson fired and everything that ultimately transpired. And now him being on Washington's squad, I really don't want to like him, but it is what it is. Ultimately, I don't think he's going to pan out. I think Washington will be looking for another quarterback in no more than 2 years. I think by 2024, we'll be seeing them drafting another quarterback or moving on from Wentz in one way or another. And that's if it even takes that long. In case you haven't heard, another name on this list is Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins actually signed a 1-year extension with Minnesota, basically indicating that they will not look to trade him despite the interest that they had received prior to this extension. Multiple teams had reached out to see their interest in trading Kirk Cousins due to his cap number in 2022. This extension saved them $14 million under the cap in 2022, which made for all the savings they needed to keep Kirk Cousins on the books for next season and beyond. Ultimately, I think this really only buys him one more season to prove that he can get them to the heights that they want. But this is basically Minnesota's attempt to give him everything he needs to succeed. They brought in a coach that's familiar with him, that helped him to some of the greatest heights in his career. And now he is going to team up with him once again in Minnesota as his head coach and play call. It remains to be seen if it works out, but it makes sense for them to give Kirk Cousins at least one more year in Minnesota, if not two. Ultimately, you gave him all the money, and you just signed him to a fully guaranteed 1-year extension. So at this point, you might as well ride out the deal until he's a free agent again. It's going to be fairly difficult given what he's going to earn over the next couple seasons, but that is who you hitched your wagon to, Minnesota, and that is your own damn fault. I have no sympathy for you. We all knew Kirk Cousins was no more than a game manager when he went to Minnesota, and you all thought that you were going to get the missing piece of your offense, when, I'm sorry to say, in reality, he is nothing more than Trevor Siemian with less mistakes. And I know that's a hot take, or people are going to take it as a hot take, but it's really not. Kirk Cousins is not all that great. He's consistent. That's the only reason he's gotten the money he has. He has come in, he's been a calm, cool, collected guy. He's a guy who studies playbooks well, and he learns offenses well, and he performs up to the task. I don't think he's a guy who elevates an offense. I don't think he's a guy who carries receivers by any stretch. And if you look back at his career, he's had a lot of extremely talented receivers and tight ends at nearly every stop. And that is a big reason why he's found success in multiple stops. In Minnesota, he has unrivaled talent on offense. Whether it's Adam Thielen, or it's Justin Jefferson, or before Jefferson it was Stephon Diggs, or at tight end he had Kyle Rudolph, and I'm blanking the dude's name who's there now. He's got Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison in the backfield. It's almost as if he's got so much talent around him, he has no excuse left to not succeed in 2022. But that's from the outside looking in, and I honestly think, like I said before, Kevin O'Connell's going to ride this thing till the wheels fall off. He is literally going to ride Kirk Cousins to free agency, or until the owner tells him otherwise, because it's a guy he's familiar with. It would have been a free agent quarterback he would have targeted had he never played in Minnesota prior to this. It just makes sense. That's all the news I've got for you today. There's been a couple other moves, not really quarterback related, one of which my Philadelphia Eagles have signed outside linebacker / defensive end Hassan Reddick. He is a guy who's put up double-digit sacks in recent years, and who has kind of exploded on the scene after the 2020 season and had another strong 2021 season. He's going to apparently line up as a Sam linebacker for us, for anybody who's not familiar, it's kind of an on-ball, strong side linebacker position where he's going to be like a hybrid pass rusher / run defender. He's going to be there, kind of set the edge and pressure quarterbacks, but at the same time, he will probably see some snaps at defensive end in certain packages. I know it's kind of a trendy name, but in our NASCAR type packages where you see them try to get the best pass rushers on the field together, most likely you'll be seeing him, Brandon Graham, Javon Hargrave, and Josh Sweat on the field at the same time at some point or another on a four lineman set. Regardless, they need to find a better way to use that Sam linebacker position. We all knew Jannard Avery was supposed to fill that role last season, and he simply wasn't used to the level that I thought he could have been. I also don't think that the Hassan Reddick signing necessarily takes us completely out of bringing back a guy like Ryan Kerrigan for depth and rotational purposes. I think Kerrigan's a guy who can fill that role and potentially fill some snaps at that Sam linebacker 4-3 defensive end position, albeit he's a little bit slower now in his older age. He was on a one-year deal last year and didn't produce much until it came to the playoffs, but he produced when the playoffs came. There's a lot to be said about that. With Reddick being a younger guy, it's not necessarily a burden to add or keep another veteran around, and I don't think the Reddick signing even stops us from drafting a pass rusher in the first round. In fact, I think that might still ultimately be a target, because remember, Reddick is going to play primarily as a linebacker. So if that's the case, we still technically have an opening at defensive end. I know Brandon Graham's there, I know Josh Sweat's there, but Sweat's dealt with some injuries, Graham's coming off an injury, and he's, I believe, 36 years old going into 2022, and he's not exactly cheap. So we need to be looking at his replacement down the line. So I ultimately think we're going to be looking for pass rushers in the draft again, whether that's one of our first round picks, one of the three, or later on in the mid rounds. We're going to be picking up somebody to help that pass rush. On another note, that's really all I've got for you guys tonight. Please remember to use my code Sam Shady at checkout anytime you go to buy tickets for any event on SeatGeek.com. And check out my other affiliate marketing links at eBay Sports Memorabilia and Amazon Music. Let's get some more people off Spotify and get away from that Joe Rogan nonsense. Moving on, I will be scheduling more player interviews, so if you're liking that content, let me know in the comments below. I'm really enjoying talking to all these guys, and I've been really lucky to find some great guys that want to come on and talk to me. And I'm always open to suggestions. So if you have any content you want to see, whether it's USFL, FCF, Indoor Football League, as long as it's pertaining to football, I have no problem covering it. In fact, coming up here soon, I will be having somebody come on and speak about some semi-pro football news. And I also have somebody that will be coming on to speak about the USFL lawsuit who has a whole lot more knowledge about law than I do. So if you want to check that out, we'll be arranging a time and getting that set up and scheduling it on YouTube so you guys can set a reminder for the live, hopefully. And if you aren't already, please subscribe to this channel. It really means a lot to me. I have a goal of doubling my subscriber count in the next 3 months. Made great progress so far, but I'm shooting for 130 subscribers. So we got like 60 more to go. I need your guys' help. Share this channel. Like I said, subscribe if you haven't already. Tell your friends, tell your grandma. I really don't care who you're telling. Just tell somebody, please. I plan on doing this for the foreseeable future, and if it continues to grow like it is, I don't see an end to it anytime soon. So stick with me. I appreciate your support, and I look forward to making more videos for you guys. On another note, that's really all I've got for you guys tonight. Please remember to use my code Sam Shady at checkout anytime you go to buy tickets for any event on SeatGeek.com. And check out my other affiliate marketing links at eBay Sports Memorabilia and Amazon Music. Um, let's get some more people off Spotify and get away from that Joe Rogan nonsense. Um, moving on, I will be scheduling more player interviews. So if you're liking that content, let me know in the comments below. I'm really enjoying talking to all these guys, and I've been really lucky to find some great guys that want to come in and talk to me. Um, and I'm always open to suggestions. So if you have any content you want to see, whether it's USFL, FCF, Indoor Football League, as long as it's pertaining to football, I have no problem covering it. In fact, coming up here soon, I will be having somebody come on and speak about some semi-pro football news. And I also have somebody that will be coming on to speak about the USFL lawsuit who has a whole lot more knowledge about law than I do. So if you want to check that out, we'll be arranging a time and getting that set up and scheduling it on YouTube so you guys can set a reminder for the live, hopefully. And if you aren't already, please subscribe to this channel. It really means a lot to me. I have a goal of doubling my subscriber count in the next 3 months. Made great progress so far, but I'm shooting for 130 subscribers, so we got like 60 more to go. I need your guys' help. Share this channel. Um, like I said, subscribe if you haven't already. Tell your friends, tell your grandma. I really don't care who you're telling. Just tell somebody, please. I plan on doing this for the foreseeable future, and if it continues to grow like it is, I don't see an end to it anytime soon. So stick with me. I appreciate your support, and I look forward to making more videos for you guys.